Please subscribe, it helps a lot.
Lucas leaned against the hood of his car as the pump clicked. The gas station sat on the edge of Franklin, peeling paint flaking off its canopy. A faded sign buzzed above him, the kind of place people stopped at only because it was the last stop before the highway. He didn't need to be there. The tank was already full, the car packed with clothes and maps, everything ready for the trip to New York. Still he lingered, eyes on the glass door, waiting. When Sean stepped out from behind the counter to sweep the sidewalk, Lucas's chest tightened. They had grown up 2 streets apart, rode the same bus, spent entire summers wandering the riverbanks. Over time, life shifted. Lucas left for college, and Sean slipped away into silence. They hadn't spoken in months, maybe longer, yet the sight of him now felt both sharp and familiar. Sean wore the same kind of clothes he always wore, a plain shirt, worn jeans. His face was thinner. There was a tiredness around his eyes that made Lucas hesitate before calling out. "Thought I'd find you here," Lucas said, voice lighter than he felt. Sean glanced up, startled, then smiled with a quiet awkwardness. "Everyone finds me here." Not many other places to go, Lucas walked closer, letting the pump click off behind him. "Still the same place." "Still you, still me," Sean said. He brushed dust off the step with the broom, avoiding eye contact. The silence stretched. The street behind them stayed empty, only a single car rolling past toward town. Franklin felt smaller every time Lucas returned, the buildings sagging a little more, the faces older. He wanted to say so, but Sean's presence pulled his thoughts away from complaint. "How long are you back for?" Sean asked finally. Lucas shrugged. "I was going to leave this morning. Have a few interviews in the city on Monday, but you're here instead." "Yeah." Lucas tried not to smile at the obviousness of it. Sean leaned on the broom handle, studying him in a way that made Lucas's skin prickle. For a moment it felt like the years had peeled away and they were boys again, waiting for the streetlight to flicker on so they knew it was time to head home. "You look different," Sean said. "You don't." Sean gave a half laugh, though there was no joy in it. "Figures." Lucas caught the shift in his tone and his eyes fell to Sean's arms. The sleeves were rolled enough to show pale skin, but here and there dark shapes broke through. Bruises. Not fresh, not fading either. His stomach turned. He wanted to ask. Instead, he said, "Do you ever think about leaving?" Sean blinked. "Leaving Franklin?" "Yeah. Every day." He pushed the broom back inside, ending the conversation like a door shutting. Lucas followed him in. The store smelled faintly of old coffee and motor oil. A cooler hummed along the back wall, bottles lined up neatly but half of them past their sell-by date. Sean stood behind the counter, his hand resting near the register, gaze fixed on the scuffed floor. "You could," Lucas said, softer now. "You could go anywhere." Sean shook his head. "Not me." Lucas studied him, the curve of his shoulders, the tension locked into every movement. He remembered when Sean ran faster than anyone else in their class, when his laughter filled the woods behind town. The memory felt like a wound, still open. "I don't believe that," Lucas said. Sean looked up, and for the first time that day their eyes held. Brown meeting. Brown. Steady. Heavy with words neither had spoken in years. The moment broke when the door opened with a squeak, and a man came in for cigarettes. Sean rang him up, expression slipping back into blank politeness. Lucas stepped aside, hands in his pockets, waiting. The customer left without a word. "You always show up right before I go somewhere important," Lucas said with a crooked smile, trying to draw Sean back. "Maybe you're the one who shows up where I already am." Lucas laughed under his breath. "Maybe." Outside, the afternoon sun dipped lower, clouds drifting lazily across the sky. The air carried that September edge, the kind that hinted at colder nights coming soon. Lucas knew he could walk away, drive east, chase the future he had planned. Yet his feet didn't move. The marks on Sean's arms, the weight in his eyes, the distance between what he said and what he wanted. All of it pressed on Lucas with more force than any interview could. The pump outside clicked again as another car pulled in, breaking the spell. Sean turned to the window and Lucas stepped back. Still, the decision hung between them like a promise. Lucas walked out to his car, the air cooler now, the shadows longer. He slid behind the wheel but didn't start the engine. He stared at the gas station, at the boy inside who once knew him. He knew he wasn't ready to let Sean go, not again. Lucas decided New York could wait. Lucas returned the next afternoon with no reason to. His car was ready, his bag still sat in the trunk, yet his steps carried him back toward the station like there was no other choice. The glass door creaked as he pulled it open. Sean stood behind the counter, eyes lifting in surprise before narrowing into suspicion. "You again?" he said, though his tone lacked bite. "I forgot something yesterday," Lucas replied, the words half a lie, half a confession. Sean crossed his arms. "What did you forget?" "You'll see." Lucas leaned against a rack of chips, pretending at ease. His heart pressed against his ribs with every second that passed. For a moment it seemed Sean might push him out. Then his shoulders lowered and his voice softened. "You always were stubborn." Lucas smiled. "And you always let me get away with it." That earned him the faintest grin, the kind that lit Sean's face in a way Lucas remembered from years ago. The silence that followed wasn't hostile, only heavy, filled with things neither of them had said in too long. Lucas stepped closer, drawn by something he couldn't reason through. He leaned on the counter, near enough to see the faint lines at the edge of Sean's eyes, near enough to notice again the bruises scattered along his arms. They weren't the clumsy marks of accidents. They looked deliberate, patterned almost, and the sight of them stirred unease in him. "Does it hurt?" Lucas asked before he could stop himself. Sean stiffened. "What do you mean?" "Your arms." Lucas reached out slowly, careful not to frighten him, and brushed his fingers against the skin of Sean's forearm. Beneath the warmth of skin lay something hard, a ridge that did not belong there. Sean pulled back like the touch burned. His chair scraped the floor as he stepped away, face tight with panic. "Don't." Lucas froze, hand retreating. "Sean." "It's not what you think," Sean said quickly. His voice cracked, the words spilling faster than he intended. "Nobody hits me." It's not that Lucas opened his mouth, but Sean cut him off. "They put it there." His eyes darted to the door, then back. "The others." The ones from above. The room stilled. The humming cooler, the faint buzz of the light. Even the air itself seemed to stop. Lucas stared, heart racing, not from disbelief but from a sudden recognition he couldn't name. "Aliens?" he asked quietly. Sean's lips pressed into a thin line. He looked away, shame pulling at every part of him. "It's a tracker. They've been putting them in me since I was a kid. Nobody believes me. My parents think I'm sick in the head. People in town laugh. I shouldn't have said anything." He turned toward the back room, desperate to end the moment. "Wait," Lucas said, but Sean shook his head. "Forget it." His voice was raw, as if the admission had torn something open he couldn't patch again. "You don't need this. You're leaving anyway." Before Lucas could move, Sean slipped through the doorway, the curtain swinging back into silence. Lucas stood rooted in place. His hand tingled from the contact, from the hard object he knew he had felt. He thought about Sean as a boy, eyes wide at the night sky, always watching for lights no one else saw. Lucas remembered the times he disappeared from sleepovers, waking outside near the fields, swearing he had no idea how he got there. It made sense in a way nothing else did. Lucas walked outside, the cool air wrapping around him. Cars rolled by on the highway, ordinary in their hum and exhaust. Yet nothing felt ordinary anymore. Sean's voice echoed in his mind, that raw edge of desperation when he confessed. He leaned against his car and stared at the store. He could leave now, He could drive to the city, chase the life he thought he wanted, never look back. That was the easy road, safe, expected. But he couldn't shake the sight of Sean's arms or the weight in his eyes when he spoke of being taken, tracked, dismissed. Lucas believed him. Not in the way someone humors a friend, but in the marrow of himself. He had felt the truth beneath the skin, and he knew he would never forgive himself if he walked away now. The pump clicked as another driver fueled up. The sound snapped him from thought, but the decision had already rooted itself deep inside him. He could not leave Franklin, not until he understood what lived beneath Sean's silence. The farmhouse stood apart from the rest of Franklin, its white paint weathered to gray, the porch sagging slightly under its own weight. Fields spread in every direction, tall grass whispering against the evening air. Lucas parked at the edge of the drive and sat for a moment, staring at the house. He wondered if Sean would even open the door. A light flickered in the kitchen window, steady, but dim. Lucas stepped out of the car and walked up the path, the boards creaking under his boots as he climbed onto the porch. Sean sat there already, hunched in a chair with his arms crossed tight. His gaze rose slowly, and the lines around his eyes deepened when he saw Lucas. "You shouldn't be here," Sean said, voice flat. "I needed to see you," Lucas answered. "Why?" Lucas shifted, leaning against the railing. "Because yesterday you told me something important, and you didn't finish. I want to hear the rest." Sean shook his head, his jaw tight. "You think I'm crazy." "No, I don't." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of wind rustling the fields. Sean's grip on his arms loosened, but his eyes stayed guarded. Lucas waited, patient, unwilling to force him. Finally, Sean exhaled. "They started when I was 6, lights in my room buzzing in my ears. I'd wake up in the fields, my parents shouting my name from the porch. They said I wandered in my sleep. Doctors said the same. Nobody listened when I told them I saw shapes around me, gray faces with black eyes." His voice dropped lower. "They pressed things into me. Metal. It moves sometimes. Crawls under the skin." Lucas felt his stomach twist. He remembered sleepovers when Sean vanished from his side, mornings when he reappeared outside with no explanation. At the time, it seemed strange but harmless. Now those memories lined up with Sean's words, each detail sharper than the last. "Why didn't you tell me before?" Lucas asked. "I tried," Sean whispered. "Once, in high school. You laughed. Not at me, not really. You didn't know. But I thought if you didn't believe me, nobody ever would." The words struck deep. Lucas replayed moments from their past, searching for that night, realizing Sean was right. He had brushed it aside, too wrapped up in his own plans, too quick to dismiss what he couldn't understand. "I'm sorry," Lucas said. The apology felt small, but it was the only thing he had. Sean's eyes glistened, though no tears fell. "Sorry doesn't pull this out of me." He pressed a hand to his arm, fingers digging into the skin. "I can feel it now." Like it's waiting, Lucas stepped forward before he thought better of it. He placed his hand over Sean's, steady and warm. "You're not alone anymore." Sean's breath caught, and for the first time his posture eased. His hand slid from his arm, though his eyes stayed fixed on Lucas's touch. A quiet tension passed between them, charged with memory and something unspoken. "They always come back," Sean said softly. "Doesn't matter where I am. Doesn't matter how old I got, I can't fight them." "You don't have to fight them," Lucas replied. "Not anymore." Sean searched his face, suspicion mixing with longing. "You can't promise that." "Why do you even care? You're leaving for a better life. You don't need Franklin. Or me." Lucas hesitated, then said the truth. "Because I care about you." The words hung heavy. Sean's lips parted, but he didn't speak. Instead, he turned his gaze toward the fields, the fading light washing him in gold. His silence wasn't rejection, though. It felt like he was fighting something inside himself, weighing whether to let hope in again. Lucas stayed close, giving him the space to decide. The quiet between them filled with everything they hadn't said since childhood. Regret, affection, fear, all blending into a fragile thread that bound them together on that porch. Sean finally spoke, voice raw. "If you stay, you'll see what they do. Then you'll leave like everyone else." Lucas shook his head. "I'm not everyone else." The porch light buzzed to life, throwing shadows across the boards. Sean looked down at his arms, then back up at Lucas, eyes wet but steady. For the first time, he seemed willing to believe the possibility of a different ending. Night pressed in around the farmhouse, the fields shifting with low currents of air. Lucas remained on the porch beside Sean, both of them silent after the long confession. The boards under their chairs creaked when either moved, the sound echoing louder than it should in the stillness. Sean leaned forward with his elbows on his knees, head bowed. "They won't stop," he said. "I can feel it tonight more than usual." Lucas studied him in the dim light. "What do you mean?" Sean touched his arm, fingers moving slowly over the place where the foreign ridge pressed beneath the skin. "The air feels different. It happens before they arrive. Pressure, like the whole sky is leaning down." Lucas listened. At first, all he heard was the normal night chorus, crickets in the fields, the distant bark of a dog. Then silence swept through the air. The crickets stopped, the dog went quiet, and even the wind seemed to pause. Sean lifted his head. "There. You hear it now?" Lucas nodded, though it wasn't a sound he noticed. It was the absence of it, the weight of stillness that pressed against his ears. His body tensed without instruction, his pulse quickening. Sean rose from his chair and walked to the edge of the porch. "They're close." His voice carried both dread and certainty, the kind of tone that left no room for doubt. Lucas stood and joined him. Across the dark field, a faint light swelled. It moved slowly at first, then with a steady glide until it hovered above the grass. The light shifted, colors flickering across its surface. The farmhouse glowed faintly beneath it. Sean's shoulders slumped as though a lifetime of struggle had returned in an instant. "See," he whispered. "It's always like this." Before Lucas could speak, the air rippled. A figure stepped into view from the tall grass, short and thin, its head round with enormous dark eyes that reflected the porch light. Sean didn't move. He lowered his arms, almost in surrender. "They want me," Sean said, voice hollow. He turned his face toward Lucas, the look carrying apology. "You shouldn't have come here tonight." "I'm so sorry," Lucas stepped forward. "I'm not going anywhere." The gray reached the steps, lifting its long fingers toward Sean. The gesture was both command and invitation, a pull that Sean seemed powerless to resist. His feet shifted, slow, as though each movement carried chains. Lucas's chest tightened. He placed himself between them, his body forming a barrier. The gray paused. Its gaze lifted, locking on Lucas, and a sharp tremor moved through the air. Sean grabbed Lucas's sleeve. "Don't. You don't understand what they can do." Lucas didn't step aside. Something deeper than fear moved through him, a strength that pulsed from his core into the space around them. The gray froze, hesitation flickering across its alien stillness. The hovering light brightened, and two more figures emerged from the grass, smaller but with the same hollow eyes. They stopped short when they saw Lucas. The air carried tension now, an unseen current stretching between both sides. Sean clutched his arm where the implant pressed under his skin. His face twisted in pain. "It's pulling me." His voice broke. "I can't fight it." Lucas turned his head enough to meet his eyes. "You don't need to." "I'm here." Sean's expression shifted, disbelief warring with hope. For the first time, someone stood between him and the shapes that stole his peace. The gray nearest them tilted its head, studying Lucas. A low vibration filled the air, not sound but sensation, prickling across skin. Lucas stood firm. He focused inward, letting the strange presence inside him expand. It poured outward, unseen, but powerful. The grays faltered. One stepped back, then another. The vibration thinned, like a signal weakening. Sean gasped, his hand falling from his arm as if the pull lessened. He stared at Lucas with wide eyes, the truth dawning slowly. "You're not..." He trailed off, unable to finish. Lucas didn't answer. His attention stayed fixed on the figures before them. The larger gray withdrew its hand, stepping away with slow precision. The others followed, retreating into the field. The hovering light dimmed, rising higher until the night sky swallowed it. The silence that returned was thick and unreal. The crickets did not resume right away, as though the earth itself waited for permission. Sean's breathing came fast, uneven. He stared at Lucas as though seeing him for the first time. "What did you do?" His voice trembled. Lucas turned toward him, the tension easing from his body. "I kept them from taking you." Sean pressed a palm over the ridge in his arm, eyes shining in the faint porch light. He whispered, "They'll come again." Lucas stepped closer, placing his hand over Sean's, steady and sure. "Not while I'm here." Sean searched his face, fear and trust clashing in his gaze. For once, the balance leaned toward trust. The night stretched on long after the light in the fields disappeared. Sean remained seated on the porch steps, his back bent, shoulders trembling. Lucas stayed beside him, close enough to touch, but careful not to push. The weight of what had occurred lingered between them, heavy and undeniable. Sean broke the silence first. "You don't understand what it means. They'll return. Stronger." His voice cracked, as though the words scraped his throat on the way out. Lucas studied him, the lines of fear etched into his face. "Not if I can help it." Lucas held Sean's arm until the active implant came through his skin, fell to the ground, then melted away. Sean turned his head, eyes locked on him, wide with disbelief. "You don't know what I've been through." They never stepped back, not once. The faint porch light flickered, casting shadows across the boards. Lucas leaned forward, his voice steady. "Then something changed tonight." Sean pressed both hands against his knees, gripping until his knuckles whitened. "Because of you," he said. The words slipped out like an accusation, though beneath the edge lay astonishment. Lucas didn't deny it. The strength he felt earlier still lingered inside him, humming beneath his skin. Sean stared at him as though searching for lies. His mouth opened as if to argue, but no words came. He dropped his gaze to the porch boards, breathing shallow. "I wanted to believe someone could stop them. I told myself it was impossible. Then you stood there and they turned away." His voice grew quieter. "What are you?" Lucas hesitated. He didn't know how to answer. "I'm me," he said finally. "I'm your friend." You know that Sean's lips tightened. More than that. The truth of it filled the air. They both felt it, the closeness neither could deny. Lucas reached out and touched Sean's wrist, his hand warm against cool skin. Sean didn't pull away. For a long moment they stayed like that, joined by silence and contact. The world beyond the porch might have been watching, but neither cared. Sean lifted his eyes, the fear still present but softened by something else. "I'm so tired of being treated like I'm broken," he whispered. "People laugh at me, avoid me, call me names. And then they come for me. Like I belong to them. Like I'm not allowed to do anything. Not allowed to be anyone. Because I know they're coming." Lucas squeezed his wrist. "You don't belong to them. You're here." With me, Sean's breath shuddered. He leaned slightly closer, as if the words pulled him forward. "Why do you care so much?" Lucas searched his face, the curve of his cheek, the shadow beneath his eyes. Because you matter to me. You always have. The answer struck Sean harder than any force from the sky. He blinked rapidly, eyes wet. His mouth trembled with unspoken questions. Then, quietly, he said, I don't want to face them alone anymore. You won't, Lucas promised. The night stretched thin, every sound sharp again. The crickets returned, the dog barked in the distance, and a faint breeze stirred the field. The world felt normal, though nothing inside either of them resembled normal anymore. Sean leaned against him. The weight of his shoulder pressed into Lucas's arm, tentative at first, then certain. Lucas shifted slightly to steady him. Neither spoke, but the closeness told everything words could not. After a while, Sean murmured, They'll never stop watching. People here won't understand. They'll treat me worse if they find out Lucas looked out across the field, where the light had vanished. Then we go where they can't hurt you. Where you're more than a story people whisper about. Sean lifted his head, searching his face for sincerity. You think it's okay for me to leave all this behind? If it means keeping you safe, yes. Sean's throat worked as though swallowing back 1,000 doubts. He pressed his hand over Lucas's, fingers tightening. Then I'll go with you. If you mean it. Lucas's chest ached with the weight of the moment. He nodded slowly. I mean it. Sean closed his eyes, leaning his forehead against Lucas's shoulder. The contact steadied him. Lucas wrapped an arm around him, careful and protective. The stars above blinked cold and distant, yet on the porch, warmth lingered. For the first time, Sean felt the grip of the watchers loosen. It was not victory, but it was the beginning of one. Morning came slowly, stretching across the horizon in muted colors. Sean watched from his bedroom window, arms wrapped around himself. Sleep never reached him. Each time he closed his eyes, he felt the presence of those who stalked him. Yet the memory of the night lingered brighter than their shadow, and it centered on Lucas. Lucas wasn't from Earth either. This had been obvious for some time, but at least he asked for Sean to go with him, and didn't force his presence and command his obedience. Lucas didn't hurt Sean the way other aliens and most humans did. He stepped away and pulled on his shoes. The house felt smaller than ever, the walls pressing in with every sound. He opened the front door quietly, easing into the crisp air. Lucas stood waiting by the gate, hands shoved into his pockets. His eyes lifted when he saw Sean, and the relief there steadied Sean's pulse. Are you ready? Lucas asked. Sean nodded, though his legs shook. Sean studied his face, the steady eyes that carried no trace of hesitation. A tremor of fear moved through him, from the risk of leaving everything familiar. Yet when he thought of staying, of enduring the endless nights and the cruel stares, he felt a deeper despair. They won't understand, Sean said. They don't have to, Lucas replied. A door creaked open behind them. Sean turned. His father stood at the threshold, arms crossed, gaze heavy with disapproval. You think running off with him will change anything? His voice cut the morning air like metal scraping stone. Sean froze. Lucas held his ground, shoulders squared. His father stepped forward. People already think you're strange. Now you bring this boy around and you expect it'll end well? They'll spit on you both. Sean's throat tightened. He wanted to shout, to explain what Lucas had done, how he turned back the darkness, but he knew his father would never believe. Every word would be twisted into weakness. Lucas broke the silence. He isn't strange. He's strong. Stronger than any of them. Sean's father glared at him. You don't know what this family endured because of him. Sean's hands curled into fists. He stepped forward, his voice shaking but clear. No. You don't know what I endured. You never asked. You looked at me like I carried a sickness. You wanted me small, afraid, silent. I can't live like that anymore. The words stunned even him. He felt his chest expand with a breath freer than any before. His father's face hardened, but Sean no longer trembled under it. Lucas reached out, not hiding the motion. Sean took his hand, the warmth flowing into him like an anchor. Together they turned from the porch. His mother appeared in the doorway beside his father, face pale and uncertain. She opened her mouth as if to call him back, but no sound came. Sean met her eyes briefly, searching for any sign of love strong enough to reach him. None came. He and Lucas climbed into Lucas's SUV. Each step felt heavy, yet a pulse of strength moved with them. Sean did not look back again. At the edge of the road, Lucas squeezed his hand. "We'll figure it all out eventually. Doesn't have to be right now. It doesn't matter as long as we're not alone." Sean breathed in the morning air, tasting freedom through the fear. "I never thought I'd be able to walk away." "You can," Lucas said. "You already did." The fields stretched before them, endless rows touched by the rising light. Somewhere beyond lay a place where Sean could exist without shame. He didn't know what waited, but he knew Lucas would be there. That truth carried more weight than the fear of the unknown. They continued down the road. The miles passed slow but certain, leaving behind the voices, the suspicion, and the house that never sheltered him. Each minute carried them farther into a future of their own making. The past trailed behind like a shadow, but the path ahead stretched wide, waiting for them to claim it.
Please make sure you are subscribed and be one of the strange.